If you're designing your own graphics, but you aren't a graphic designer, then you probably want to find little ways that you can improve your skills and get better at designing good quality graphics. And get inside a designer's head a bit more and how they think, how do they actually approach a design? How do they think through what they're doing and how do they come up with these ideas? Well, in today's video, I'm going to share with you 5 ways you can think more like a designer. As a graphic designer that's been designing for many years, a lot of things start to come quite naturally to me. But I remember those early days when I was trying to figure out design and I'd look through magazines and try and copy layouts because I didn't understand how it worked. And I'd think, oh, surely it can't be that hard to create a nice design, but then when you go to do it, it just isn't working and you're like, how do they do this? How do they come up with these ideas and how do they make the design look good? I get that sometimes it can feel hard if it's not something that comes naturally to you. So in today's video, let's look at 5 ways you can think more like a designer so that you can create better graphics. First of all is to consider the goal. Whenever you go forward to create a design, it's really important to know what the goal of that design actually is. If you're just thinking, well, I just want to make something pretty, well, there's just so many possibilities and you're going to feel lost because you're like, how can I make this prettier? And then you might try and do things that are really on trend and you end up feeling really lost in it because you're just trying for the aim of trying to make something look nice. Whereas if you are really thinking about the goal of the design, then you're going to approach it more strategically. You're going to think, well, who is this for? What is it trying to communicate? What am I trying to achieve with this graphic? When you approach it from that goal point of view, then you're going to create a better design. This really forces you to design more intentionally, really thinking about the purpose of the design and then creating something that's going to fulfill that purpose rather than just creating something that looks nice. The next way to think more like a designer is to start thinking about what's the most important thing. So this is called hierarchy, where we think about, well, what's the most important part of this graphic and how can we make it stand out the most? And then in a hierarchy, moving down to, what's next most important? What's the least important thing that we need? So then you can make sure that your design flows. So you're thinking about, what do I want to grab someone's attention with? So this is most likely going to be your headline. And then what do I want them to see next? So using things like size and color to make sure that things are going to stand out at the right time and the graphic is going to flow. So really thinking about the hierarchy of your design and what is the most important thing. And then what things don't matter so much. So sometimes people are like, oh, I've got to put my logo big, but really your logo is often not that important. It's more just a mark just to let people know that this is part of your brand. And you often actually just want it to be something really small because it's actually not that important. It's more just so people know that that comes from that brand. What's more important is getting the message that you're trying to get across. So that headline. So making sure that that headline is really big or, is in a color that stands out. Making sure that it's the thing that stands out first. And then the things that aren't so important, like maybe your logo or website address, are quite small on the page. The next trick is to step back and see where the eye leads. So it's really important to think about, how is somebody going to view this graphic? So where does the eye lead? So what do they look at first? Then where are they led to look next? And how is that eye being led? And then if it's off, making adjustments to your design. So there can be little things like maybe there's a shape that's sort of pointing in a certain direction and that's not really where you wanted someone's eye to be led, but at the moment it's leading them that way and you want to lead them back into the graphic. And this can also be influenced by the images you use. So if you use a picture of a person and they're looking off the page, then you're losing someone. So if you've got a person looking at something, you really want them to be looking at something like your call to action. So it draws the eye towards that thing. So they'll see the headline, then they see this image of a person, they look where their eyes are looking, or call to action. And so it's really leading that eye in that way. So it's really important to notice, how is your graphic leading the eye? So while you've taken a step back, it's also important to notice, is something missing? So does it feel like there should be something more, like there's something missing from this page? It feels like something's a bit off. Keep in mind that white space does count as an element, but it could still be that there's something missing. It could be that there's just one single graphic here and then white space, and it feels like it needs something more. And this could be to do with hierarchy or balance, but something is missing and you need to add in something else to balance it out. So this leads to our next point, which is making sure that you have balance. So design has visual weight. So if you have something big that's over here, you might then want white space here to balance that thing out. So you really got to think about making sure that your design is balanced. And if something is feeling off in the design, think about balance. Think, is something here a bit out of balance? If I've got something over here, do I need to balance it out with something over there? Really think about how you can balance things out and make sure that the design feels nice and balanced and doesn't feel off kilter or feels like something missing or feels overwhelming and too much. So it's really important to make sure your design is balanced. So if there's too much going on and it's, lots of things all the same size, same color, it's like, well, where do I even look? Because there's so much going on and it's not clear where I should be looking. Then your design is off balance and, maybe you need to change the hierarchy so it flows better. Think of it like each visual has a weight to it and you want to be balancing things out. It's really important to make sure that the whole design is balanced, and if things feel off kilter in some way or overwhelming, like there's too much that's the same, it's important to take that time to look at the design and work out how can I make this more balanced. Because when it comes to creating a graphic, it's all about communication design. We're trying to design something to communicate a message. So it's really important when you're approaching a design, you've got to think about, well, what is the goal of it? What am I trying to communicate? Who am I trying to communicate it to? How is this graphic actually flowing? What is someone going to see first, they see next? Am I making sure that their eye flows in the right direction from seeing that headline to seeing that call to action? Is everything flowing correctly and is it balanced out so it doesn't feel weird and out of balance and people don't know where to look? It's important to consider all these things if you want to create good quality design that is actually effective and is going to communicate a message. So as you approach designs, really consider, is this going to communicate my message clearly? Am I going to get my message across in a way that's going to make sense to someone, or am I just going to confuse them and lose them? Design doesn't have to be complicated, but it's just about practicing and training your eye. Over time, you'll get better and better at it and it will start to become more and more naturally. But I hope that these tips got you started and got you thinking about how you can approach design better and create some better graphics. Now, if you'd like to learn more about branding and graphic design, then be sure to subscribe to this channel and I'll see you next time.